What's up everybody, it's your boy Duplays here. We are back with some more reaction videos for you guys. Today we're checking out the newest handheld that just released. Well, I mean, just got announced. I think it's released for pre-order, I don't remember. But the Legion Go 2 is announced. So we're checking it out now. Let's get into it.
This is the most ridiculous gaming handheld.
Bro got some nice blue eyes, no homo.
Legion Go Gen 2. This is what we've been waiting for, right? The refreshed second generation of proper gaming handheld with better specs and refined designs and just, you know, quality of life improvements to give them.
You know, I really hope they improve that
so what's new makes this
latch mechanism for the controllers.
Special.
Yeah, I like
Let's
that.
start with the second question. There's a few things. Obviously, the size, 8.8 inches.
Not to say I have a problem with the Steam Deck screen size. It's 7.4 inches. For the OLED model, that is. The LCD is 7 inches. I don't have an issue with that. I don't like big bezels though, and they did shrink them down in the Steam Deck OLED. I think they could shrink them even more on the sides. What they did, they slimmed down the bottom and top bezels. I think even these are a little slimmer too, but I think for the next model they could slim it down even more. But that's not coming for at least the next 2 to 3 years. So, oh, one last thing: the Xbox Ally X is a flat set, which is fine.
We have the Ryzen Z2 Extreme chip, or the Z2 on the cheaper version of this, and also much improved cooling thanks to these
that kickstand looks so great.
Exhaust vents and some refinements inside. So top of the line performance for a gaming handheld. It's also a Windows PC, which means that obviously you can access all the different game stores. It's not just Steam OS, so you have the most versatility when it comes to, well, just playing all the games out.
I imagine Legion Space is still horrible though as a UI.
By anything, but it's also a Windows PC, which means it's a finicky, buggy, kind of horrible experience. That's why most of the time they try to encourage you just to use the Legion Space. That's where all the games are sort of put into one area that you can fire up. But of course, the party trick,
the
really
Legion Switch,
the Legion Go, is the fact that we have these detachable, I was about to say Joy-Cons. No, these are True Strike controllers. So you can use it with this little kickstand like that. With this guy, which comes bundled in the box, you can pop that in there and it becomes a proper little mouse. And if you switch underneath here to FPS mode, you can be a lot more precise. So it's a big, very powerful...
Yeah, me personally, this is cool and all, but I have no use for that mouse mode. I'm using this as a handheld strictly. But it's cool that it's there, but I wouldn't use it.
Controllers. There's a lot you can do with this. But all that was the case with the original one. What is new with this second generation version? Well, actually quite a bit. We obviously have the new chips. We've got the Ryzen Z2 and Z2 Extreme. The screen's been upgraded from IPS to OLED, and it's still 8.8 inches. And
we're finally getting a VRR OLED screen.
Units of brightness, and
finally. I imagine that's going to be costly though.
It's been certified for the Display HDR True Black 1000 standard. It was already like the best gaming screen, but now with OLED, it is absolutely stunning. They've significantly improved the cooling. We have much larger exhaust vents. They've refined the controls, better speakers. They've added a fingerprint reader to the power button. And maybe best of all, we have a much bigger battery. It's
2 buttons on the side. I'm guessing that's on each controller. 1, 2, and I saw some more at the back. 3, 4.
Much bigger battery. It's 50.
That's a lot. Well, I don't know if there's any on that other controller. I know it's on the right one. From this perspective, it's the left, but if they're on it, would be the right. Joy-Con, but Steam Deck has 2 on each, which is 4, but it looks like that has 4 on just 1. And then there's a wheel thing at the back. It feels a bit over-engineered, I'm not gonna lie. I hope he spins it around. We'll see if it has it.
50% larger. We've gone from 49.2 watt hours to 74. And you can still get it with 32 gigs of RAM and up to 2 terabytes of storage, although you can still expand the storage.
It's a thick boy of a system though, which is to be expected given the hardware that's been packed in it. It really is the latest and greatest.
So for some reason, I actually have two Legion Go Gen 2s right now. It's a FedEx issue, don't worry about it. One has to go back, unfortunately. But let's talk about battery life. That is the biggest issue when it comes to handhelds, particularly the Legion Go. And I think it's fair to say the original one had...
Yeah, it did, because it had the highest resolution screen. It had the largest screen in general. Yeah, it was the worst, for sure. It's a lot bigger now, but I feel like they should have just made it 80 flat. I'm not sure why 74. I know it's only 6 watts smaller than the Xbox Ally X and the ROG Ally X. But it's like, just make it 80 flat. It's so close. And then on top of that, it's gonna draw more power because it has a bigger screen. So you need that additional. It's still gonna get pretty good battery life for a handheld PC because it's still a fairly large battery. But still, it's gonna be the most power. What's the word? The most power demanding handheld. Just give it the 80 flat. And then I think after this generation now, they should really look into making them 99.9 watt hours, which is the legal limit, I think, to take them on the plane. So, at which point we just be fully reliant on CPU, or I should say chip efficiency, power efficiency, which is still the case now, but, you know, we'll only have that to rely on.
To the Windows handhelds. I have good news. Obviously, we talked about the fact that they have increased the capacity by 50%. We now have a 74 watt-hour battery, which is still smaller than the 80 watt-hours you get in the Xbox.
Just spoke about this. The Legion needs it more.
Yes, so while I haven't compared them directly yet, I would imagine the Xbox handheld, basically Asus handheld, will have a slightly longer battery life. But I tested Cyberpunk running at high settings, at native resolution, 144 Hz, full performance mode, max fan speed, you know, all the bells and whistles. On the original Legion Go, I got around an hour 35-ish. With this, I got about 2 hours and 15. And also this is running non-final software. So just in that particular test, I've seen about a 35% increase in battery life, which is pretty significant. And in terms of a more sort of everyday use case, slightly less demanding games, you drop the resolution a little bit, which I probably would recommend, you'll get about 3.25 hours out of one of these guys. And if you just play the simplest games at sort of 50% brightness, then you could push this up to maybe 5 hours. So it lasts longer, but how much faster is it with this new Z2 Extreme chip? Well, in F125, running at native 1200p, 144 Hz, full performance mode, and medium
not bad,
settings,
not bad.
I averaged 78 frames per second. Although the minimum was 3, I have experienced some pretty terrible 1% lows, but I think that could be a software issue. Dropping the resolution down to 1000p bumps the frame rate up by 9%, but then dropping down to 100p, again, same settings, we break triple digits.
So you heard that at Steam Deck resolution, which is 800p. I don't even have a problem with that. I'm good with that. I don't think these handhelds should pass 1080, which this one does.
Medium settings, I averaged 58 frames per second, but dropping the resolution down to 1000p, it bumped it up by 44%.
Wait, what was the initial resolution? 1200?
And then down to 800p, again, we break 44%. 8 frames per second, but dropping the resolution down to 1000p, it bumped it up by 44% to 84 FPS average.
Nice.
And then down to 800p,
and that's at medium.
Again, we break triple digits with 102 average. Although those tests were run with the power plugged in.
Oh god,
I
yeah.
saw a 15%
That's
drop
not good because these handhelds should be performing their best. Well, I mean, no, not their best. My bad. These handhelds' performance should not change, whether on battery or on AC power, which should be the charging cable, unless you need that to go to turbo mode, because I think turbo mode for the Ally X doesn't enable until you plug it in, which I think it's, what, 35 watts? They changed it on the X. I think for the original Ally it was 30 watts. You need to be plugged in to use that TDP. That's fine, because you're not going to see any change in performance. Well, you will, but it's just that the turbo mode wouldn't be enabled anymore because it's not plugged in. It's designed that way.
Drop in Cyberpunk, which is not nothing,
naturally,
but
yeah.
your best gaming experience will be when you have it plugged in.
If it's switching from turbo mode, which usually the handhelds don't allow unless you're plugged in, then fine, because naturally it's going to drop your TDP and it's going to be worse performance. But if it's worse performance on battery at the same TDP, yeah, that's an issue. But like you said, not final software, they're probably still working the bugs out. So let's continue. I feel like I'm saying too much.
Performance and about a 30% improvement to battery life. That's not too shabby for Gen 2. Now, in terms of the actual design, well, it looks very similar to the Gen 1. They've actually made
That's the right one that we saw first.
Like the side is a lot more ergonomic. It feels a lot more comfortable. It actually feels a little bit smaller because it sort of curves round here. It's a more of a rounded corner. They've split these buttons into two here. We've got a larger area for the speaker. They've tweaked these buttons a little bit to make it less likely you'll accidentally press them. But you really do have a lot of buttons on here. There's two over here. There's one here. You've got a scroll wheel, which also is a button. You've got triggers, shoulder buttons, and of course we still have the touchpad, which a lot of people love.
We'll need that for desktop mode if you're installing any mods or stuff like that, or just browsing the internet on it. But yeah, I love that they included that.
So you really have a lot of options for controlling it, and of course being able to detach them.
Yes, sir.
There is a lot going on here, and while it is certainly refined versus the Gen 1, it's still far from perfect. Like,
I imagine.
This is such a heavy device. It's about 920 grams, just a hair over 2 pounds.
The screen is much better for sure.
Pause.
I wouldn't say the bigger the better. This is a good size though.
This thing's huge.
Look at the smile.
The graphics are great. I mean, I can't believe the size of it though. Very chunky.
I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're using it like a tablet mode with a stand set up, but in handheld, I mean, if you're going from using this to touching the screen, the amount of weight and pressure on one of the sides so then you can interact with the touchscreen. And I have to be honest, I really don't like the way you detach these controllers. You press the button down here and then pull down. It does work, but there's no sort of satisfying press to this. It's really kind of uncomfortable and doesn't feel very nice. And the weight of it, you have to kind of grab the screen. Like, I thought I'd attached that properly. I think I'm maybe even more frustrated by how difficult it is to reattach. In fact, let me just try it now.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm not doing this for like comic effect. I'm trying to, there we go.
How secure is that though?
Right, there you go. But having used a Switch 2, and given the fact this is a Gen 2 device, I really had hoped they'd improve this mechanism because it's just clunky.
Okay, you heard that last part? It doesn't feel premium. I was concerned about that. Yeah, I don't like that. Which is?
Particularly when you factor in the price of this thing. There is a couple of things that have been downgraded. Firstly, it's thicker and it's heavier. It's actually about 60 grams heavier and about 2 millimeters thicker versus the original. And then we have the screen, which I still think is the best on a handheld out there right now.
How about one of those? I'd be rushing to put a screen protector on it. And then a skin.
OLED, but the resolution's been downgraded. Previously, it was 2560 by 1600. Now it's
the 1440p resolution that they had on the first one was too high. It went too high. The chip can't handle that. But top of the line games, obviously, if you're playing like 2D stuff, it'll be fine. But I guess in their mind, they were thinking, okay, there's integer scaling, or you could just turn on the resolution, you'll be fine. Which I imagine for the most part you would be. But yeah. But then now they give this one some weird 16 by 10 resolution, which is what the Steam Deck has, 16 by 10. I always switch the games to 720p because I don't like 16 by 10 that much. I really do not. So I wish they had just made it 1080p rather than 1200, but I mean, you can always turn the resolution down. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Still 16 by 10 aspect ratio, but we've basically gone from Quad HD Plus down to Full HD Plus, which makes sense. I think the vast majority of people who gamed on the original Go would have dropped it down to 1200p or 800p to get better frame rates and also better battery life. However, when it comes to Windows scaling, technically, if you have the original Legion Go and the Legion Go 2, both running at 800p, the old one will be a little bit sharper because it's scaled by half rather than by a third. That's the only ever so slight downside. In practice, it's not a big deal. Window scaling is fine these days. And if you are going to game at 1280 by 800, then it's not going to be the sharpest thing anyway. But the flip side of that is that because we have the new chip, the better performance, it means that you can get away with even AAA gaming at native resolution at 1920 by 1200. So you might not even want to drop the resolution like you almost certainly would with the original one. And what I genuinely love about this is just the level of customization, resolution, frame rate, fan curves, the
okay, yeah, I really like that. I like that you can change the colors. That's nice.
Detached mode, handheld mode, tablet mode. I also want to give a mention to the vibration, the HD haptic feedback. You can switch it between different game genres, you can change the intensity of it, but I really like the little vibration you get in the controller, particularly when you're playing a racing game or you're shooting in an FPS. It really does add to that kind of immersive factor. Quite honestly, this is not designed
Get to the price, bro, get to the price.
Or a Steam Deck OLED, those sort of
I'm sorry, I'm not rushing you.
pick up and play easy consoles. This is for someone who, well, has a lot of money, but also just wants the best performance, the best screen, and just like crazy versatility.
You know what we need for the controllers? We need that middle grip piece that you can just lock the control pieces onto and just make it one big controller. They had them for the Legion Go controller grip. And there were custom ones on Etsy too. I used to see them all the time. Yeah, this one's a bit weird. Something along these lines. You guys get the idea. Kind of like what the Switch has. Yeah, you get the idea.
This is designed for like the enthusiast gamer. What would have made this even better though would be if the whole thing was like 10% smaller. Give me an 8-inch screen, reduce the weight by sort of 10-15%, make it a little bit thinner, just make it more compact.
Yeah.
Also, I really wish they would come up with a better mechanism for these controllers. Also, it's very expensive. This Z2 Extreme version will cost you £1,099, or in the US, $1,349.
$1,350. That's gaming laptop money. Yeah, I realize it has 32 gigs of RAM. That VR OLED is probably where a lot of that chunk, that increased price is coming from, because no other handheld has that right now. Because the Xbox Ally is still on LCD. In fact, they're using the same screen from the first ROG Ally, which is what the X also uses. And then the engineering, the removable controllers, that probably costs some more in terms of manufacturing. Wow, 13, that's too much. That's DOA, that's dead on arrival. I can't justify that purchase. I just can't.
Although there is a cheaper option if you
Nah,
go for the
it's
lower
not. I
price
think the Z2 is like,
it's far from perfect.
it's just as powerful as a Z1 Extreme. They just rename it, so you might as well just buy a Z1 handheld if you're gonna get this. But then, I mean, you won't have the OLED screen then, and the bigger battery, so there's also that. But hey, can't justify this.
But the Lenovo Legion Go 2 is a big step up versus the original, and I'm having a blast with it. Even if sometimes it makes me want to pull my hair out. But some of those
I mean, it is a Windows
software,
PC, and
this
it
is
can be
a
used for productivity
version.
purposes. You could edit videos on it, you could record videos on it, you could use this as a YouTube machine with your mic, keyboard, your webcam. You could do a reaction channel, and you could probably take off to the moon. So, it's not just gaming. It being a Windows device, a handheld PC gives it so much more utility.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'm going to do a full handheld buying guide, including the MSI Claw A8, including the Xbox ROG Ally. But in the meantime, let me know what you make of the Legion.
No, not
Would you
really.
be tempted to spend $1,350 on this? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.
Alright guys, that was it. That was my reaction to the Lenovo Legion Go 2. That price was crazy. We won't talk about that anymore though. Hope y'all enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all of that good stuff. Follow my socials, TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. They'll be in the description. And I will see y'all in the next video. I'm going to start saying that probably in the middle of the video rather than the beginning, because you guys haven't seen the video yet and I don't want to bombard you with all of that stuff. So I'll put the shameless plugs and the subscriber begging in the middle or closer to the end, but not to the beginning going forward. So yeah, goodbye.